Okay. Then you don't need to worry about it. This is for those who, want to learn when they miss something or they need to go back and rewatch a lesson. Okay, so I got quite a few -6s. It looks like someone tried to put -6, but accidentally typed that expression as well. We're kind of all over the place on this question, though, yeah?
Right now?
I don't know. What am I supposed to do first in order to evaluate this expression?
Parentheses.
Okay, so what are y'all referring to when you immediately say parentheses? Okay, you're talking about PEMDAS. Or some people call it, please excuse my dear Sally. But this is what everyone calls it. They call it PEMDAS, they call it, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, but those are just mnemonic devices to help you remember something. What is this referring to? The order of operations. The parentheses come first. Yeah, they do. But that's where everyone starts. And this, because we just memorize this, we just say, oh, parentheses comes first, right? But here's a more important thing. Hey, Kelsey, what comes last?
Whatever operation is last between addition and subtraction.
So whatever is last between addition and subtraction. Did you notice how Kelsey didn't just say addition and then subtraction? She actually put the two of them together. Did you know that addition and subtraction kind of happen at the same time? Not addition and then subtraction afterwards? We did know that for some of us? Good. So addition and subtraction are the lowest operations, right? They're the least powerful is the way I always word it. What is more powerful than addition and subtraction?
Multiplication and division.
Multiplication and division. Specifically, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to say that's multiplication, maybe not that far up. And then I'm going to go up on subtraction, I'm going to get division. Notice how I put multiplication and division right next to each other as well, like they're the same level? Does anyone know why I put multiplication specifically above addition? What you got, Matthew?
Because multiplication comes first.
But why?
It's kind of like, not what I was going to say, but it's similar to it. Yeah.
It is similar to addition. So why is it above addition? It's repeated addition. Is that what you're going to say, Rose? Okay. I want y'all to think about this. If I were to tell you, hey, 4 times 5, we all know that answer. What is 4 times 5? 20. But why is it 4? Why is it 20? Well, because I'm adding 5 how many times?
4 times.
4 times. So notice, if I were to do 4 times 5 and then I were to add 8, don't I need to repeatedly add my 5 4 times and then add the 8? So really, multiplication is just repeated addition. That's why it's more powerful. So then why is division above the subtraction? It's similar, isn't it? What is division?
Another way of subtraction.
Say again?
Repeated subtraction.
Repeated subtraction. In a specific context. But it is important to notice, I would assume most of us know that 8 divided by 2 is what? Is 4, right? Okay. What is 8 minus 2? 8 minus 2. 6. Minus 2 again. 4. Minus 2 again. 2. Minus 2 again. Okay, now I've gotten to the end, right? Hey, how many 2's did I have to take out?
4.
Oh, and 8 divided by 2 is 4? So all multiplication is repeated addition, and division is repeated subtraction. And so, addition and subtraction are on the same level, then multiplication and division are on the same level, and then what's above both of those?
Exponents.
Exponents, right? Because what is an exponent? Say it one more time, Jalen.
Repeated multiplication.
Repeated multiplication. Notice how repeated addition was multiplication? So if I were to do 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, how else could I write that?
3 over 4.
3,
He said, how many 3 was it?
3 over 4.
3 over 4.
Yeah.
3 over 4?
No, to the
3
fourth.
3 to the 4th power, right? Notice all a positive exponent is repeated multiplication. So does anyone remember what, or have an idea what repeated division might be?
Square root.
Not a square root, not parentheses. Notice how I said positive exponent?
Negative exponent.
Yep. If I were to tell you 5 times 3 to the negative 2, really, that's just 5 divided by 3 times 3? I'm dividing by 2 3s, okay? And so it's important to recognize that addition and subtraction are the least powerful, and then when I repeatedly do addition and subtraction, I get multiplication and division, so that's why I do those before addition and subtraction. When I repeatedly multiply and divide, I get up to exponents in one way or another. Now, here's the thing though. That means right now, what would I have to do first?
Multiply.
I'd have to multiply. Remember, multiplication is more powerful. So what if I wanted to add first? What would I need? Parentheses. The whole point is that parentheses don't actually do any operations. The parentheses group stuff together so that if I want to do a weaker operation first, I can. That's why parentheses have to come first, because they group together. That's why you can actually also use, anyone know what we can use besides parentheses?
Brackets.
Brackets. They're just grouping symbols. I'm grouping the 4 and the 5 together so that that weaker operation happens before the more powerful one. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do we understand those ideas a little bit better?
Yes.
Because that's going to play into being able to evaluate this. We'll continue to do warm-ups like this to continue getting better, but it's important that you ask questions. That being said, what is the first thing I need to do to evaluate this? I should probably rewrite it so that everyone can see it. What's the first thing I need to do to evaluate this expression?
5 minus 7.
I got to do the parentheses. Remember how that's going to group a weaker operation together? So 5 minus 7 is negative 2. Then it's being squared. Now, here's one thing I want to point out. Can you use a calculator to do 5 minus 7? Yes. Am I okay with that? Yes. I am teaching you geometry. I'm not teaching you adding and subtracting. I'm not teaching you exponents. Use a calculator all you want. I do ask that you know how to apply the order of operations, but you just being able to do 5 minus 7, go for the calculator. I don't care. I care that you know how to apply the order of operations. Okay? So for all of you who are like, man, but Mr. Kinney, I haven't learned how to do exponents. Cool. I don't care. Calculators are for that. We'll address those things in the future. But Mr. Kinney, it's really hard for me to do 17 times 23. Cool. Use a calculator for 17 times 23. I care about teaching you geometry with data analysis. Okay. So, what's the next operation I should do?
Exponent.
Kinda. I could. There's actually one thing that I would probably do before the exponent.
Negative 2 times.
Negative 3 plus 1.
Why would I do negative 3 plus 1 first? What does that P stand for again?
Parentheses.
But what do parentheses really do? They group, right? Is negative 3 grouped with the 1 in that denominator? They are. So like, I haven't had to put the parentheses here, but this is understood to be grouped together. So you could do them separately, or I could even do, hey, what is negative 2 squared?
Negative 4.
Ooh. Positive.
Which one is it?
Negative 4.
Remember, what does it mean to square something?
No, it's
It's to multiply it by itself. So it'd be negative 2 times. Well, I'm squaring negative 2, so it's negative 2 times negative 2. Remember, I'm not squaring 2, I'm squaring negative 2, which means it's negative 2 times negative 2, which is going to be a what?
Negative.
Positive.
Positive 4. Yep, a negative times a negative is positive. That's important to recognize. Jalen, are you a little confused about that?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I did that wrong, that's all.
But did anyone put -2 squared into the calculator and get -4?
Me?
Kelsey, you did? Okay, so please notice this, guys. It matters whether you put it into your calculator like this or like this. The calculator correctly recognizes this as -2 times -2. It also correctly recognizes this as a -2 times 2, saying that I'm just squaring the 2. You good with that now?
Why did you tell us that before?
I told you that last year. Lots.
Nah,
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Well, that sounds like a personal problem. Learn it now. Alright, so notice I can also do -3 plus 1 at the same time. -3 plus 1 is?
One is just -4.
Hold on.
We
Negative
better start
2.
using calculators.
Negative
Oh,
two.
-2.
No,
-3 plus 1?
Give it up. Just give it up.
That's -2. And so notice again, like use a calculator. 4 divided by -2 is?
What?
4 divided by -2
-2.
is -2.
-2 minus,
It's not.
And -2 minus 4? -6. What the majority of us put was
That
-6.
was -6. Duh.
That was the
I put
answer.
it.
Oh God.
That's crazy.
So please understand, again, this is more about evaluating expression. This is something that we'll do in warm-ups, and it'll take us a little while, and we'll speed up and speed up and speed up, but we need to know how to evaluate expressions to be able to do a lot of what we do this year. So make sure you're paying attention to this. If you need to, take notes about the order of operations and how it works so that you can be more comfortable with this moving forward. Now, from what I could tell, some of us were a little uncomfortable with the second one here as well. The operations weren't as complicated, but I told you to start off with let n equals 7, x equals -3, and x plus 5 squared minus 2n. Can someone explain to us how to get started on this problem? What you got, Matthew?
Alright, do -3 for x plus 5.
So, what are you doing there? Let's go into a little bit more detail.
For x, you're going to use -3.
So like this x is just going to go away, and it's going to become a -3?
It should.
It should? You add the -3 to the x?
No.
Yes, Kelsey?
You substitute.
Ooh, there's a nice mathematical word.
fill in.
You see this -3? What is it in respect to the x? It is equal to. If two things are equal, can one thing take the place of the other?
Yeah.
Yes. Right? And so that's exactly what we want to recognize here is -3 is going to take the place of x. It's going to get, as Kelsey said, substituted in for x. So -3 plus 5 squared minus 2. Wait, what's happening between the 2 and the n?
Multiplication.
They're being multiplied. Please pay attention to that. I used to have a lot of students in the past who would just do this. Because they let the 7 take the place of n. But what did they just write? 27. Is it supposed to be 27?
No.
No. It's supposed to be 2 times 7. So what's the first operation I need to do? Is parentheses an operation?
You need
Nope.
to do
The parentheses are
-3,
grouping, so I'm going to do -3 plus
5,
5, which is
+2.
positive 2. What's next?
Square. 2 squared.
2 times
Yeah.
I'm gonna use his pencils up because he had to sneeze and all that on his hand.
2 squared.
Alright, so 2 squared, which is
2 times
2 times 2, which is 4.
14. Do 2 times 7.
So do 2 times 7, not 4 minus 2?
No.
No, because the multiplication needs to happen.
Yeah.
First. So 4 minus 14. I like the language. That multiplication is more powerful. And 4 minus 14 is -10. Does anyone have any questions about what we just went over before we continue with today?
No, sir.
Put your rest on.
Alright, we're going to get back to today's lesson. We get to the actual lesson.
Why y'all sneak this stuff in sometimes you make y'all hot.
Oh, cool.
I told y'all it would be up for these folks.
Hey, really quickly, can you hit the lights for me, please? Oh, what is all that?
We got books.
Books.
Ooh, I never
A
read
lot
them.
of geometry books. And out for two. Can y'all just set them down in that back right corner over there? I'll take care of it, don't sweat it.
They for the bugs.
I appreciate it. Alright, really quickly, I want to address this, alright? This is an important question, alright? I know it sounds silly, but the first question of the just strongly agree to strongly disagree is simply, I think I can learn math well. First things first, if you don't think you can learn math well, what are you going to probably do?
Not do it.
You're just not going to do it. You're going to give up. You're going to ignore it, right? And I get that.
So who's the correct answer?
Well, it's an opinion.
Strongly agree.
Okay. But I want to point this out. If you already are in your head and in your mind saying, hey, I can't learn math well, it's going to be really hard for you to care and to put in the effort. All right? What I want you to hear, and I'll say this time and time again throughout the year, is that hard work pays off. I don't care what's happened in the past, and you can't either. You have to focus on what you can do moving forward, because I'm going to be here to support you to be successful. You have to decide to put in that effort, because you can learn math well. I promise you that. The one thing I did like to see here, y'all, I know there's people coming in. Let's focus though. The majority of us are still thinking that we can work with our group to learn math well. Hopefully we can get these people that are neutral into the agreeing part, but you have a group here. Work with them to learn. Y'all did that yesterday with the 4 4s. Yes, ma'am.
Well, how many questions was it? 3 or 4?
It was 4 total.
I only had 3 questions on my thing.
You can leave it on. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't have the other, what's the name?
Sorry.
Yeah.
You have the book.
Fix it. We'll fix it in the future. All right. Let's get started with today's
This one is
official class. Hey, come on, Dee Dee. You ain't got to be rude.
sorry.
Like, I don't even know what you said, but I could tell by your tone that you were being rude.
I
Quit
wasn't
it.
being rude. I said I like his headline.
Okay, really quickly, in terms of agenda, all right? We're going to talk quickly about 2 things with how to handle emails, because a whole bunch of us didn't do the homework, and I imagine some of us have got home and realized we don't know what the homework actually was or something like that. And I actually had a student email me yesterday. I blacked out their name and their picture so you can't tell who it is. But I want to say that was awesome, right? And show y'all, like, you can do this, and I'll respond to your emails to give you more support and help you on homework and things like that. All right, so then we're going to quickly recap yesterday before we get into equations and equalities. So, really quickly, all right? So, hey, Mr. Kinney, we have an issue on my hands, right? So for some reason, the picture that I took in class yesterday, it was blurry and I can't see it. Notice, if you can get close, you can't see that picture. You don't know what it says. I very quickly went in, snipped a picture of the slide, and sent it to that student. Yeah, snipped it. Like there's this thing where it's called a snipping tool on computers.
I know how to.
Okay, so I used a snipping tool and I sent that slide to that student so that they could complete the homework. Okay, I'm here to support you. That student emailed me at 5:03. I responded by 5:25. Right? I'm not saying I'll always respond that quickly, but I responded in about 20 minutes. All right. So email me if you have questions, if you forget something, if you don't know what something is. Couple of details that I do want to point out really quickly though. This right here was the subject, which technically that could be the subject, but in general, when you have a subject, it shouldn't address the person, just say what the subject is about. Homework, right? Or the 3-2-1 homework or something like that, right? So just be aware because this is going to matter for like future jobs and when you go off to college. When you send an email, the subject line should literally just contain the subject. And then when you get into the body, that's when you would say like something like, hey, Mr. Kinney, comma, and it's like a letter from there. So, great job. I was really excited to see that email. However, be aware of how to fix the subject up there. So yesterday we started on the 4-4s. I don't know if anyone else continued working on it. Hopefully you found some more. But I did want to show a couple of pictures, right? I guess I'll turn my lights back off for this. Okay? So when I look here, I just want to point out all over the classroom we had students working. I know that some of us got frustrated on this. But when you work like this, you will learn. Okay? Yes, really.
Huh?
What? When you work like this, when you are challenged, you're going to grow and learn. It may not be comfortable, but I promise you'll learn. That means you need to be paying attention instead of playing around with other people's backpacks or folders or whatever else. Nah, dude. Okay. So, I loved it yesterday. It seemed chaotic in here if you were looking around, but it was good. It was productive. Some of us didn't learn as much as others because we were not paying attention and working, but I promise you, if you put in the time and effort, you're going to grow and learn. So let's keep that up. So we're about to start today's lesson, which I actually need to send it to your calculators, which I'll do in a second. But y'all started, yes, I'll explain the SMP and no, not SEM. In the last couple years, y'all have worked with equations, right? Stuff like 3x is equal to 6, or 2x minus 7 is equal to 5. We've seen equations like this, correct? Yes?
Yeah.
You did nothing last year?
No, because we ain't had no good teacher.
We didn't.
Where were you?
Don't
Don't tell me who the teacher was, but what school were you at?
Which teacher were you?
So, we're not talking about the teachers. We're not talking about teachers. I was just curious where you were. Look, once again though, alright, I know that we are coming at it from different places, so I'm actually starting this at the most fundamental level. So a lot of us hopefully have seen equations like this.
Can we do a review though?
That's what we're about to do. That's about the next week to week and a half of what we're doing, okay? So we got equations like this, alright? And what were you told to do with these equations?
I don't even remember. I ain't even captured.
Pretty sure there's an S word that you... No. Say it again. You were told to solve these equations, weren't you?
I mean,
You know you were.
I was saying, y'all were told to solve them. I know that was the language you were given, right? Because you start this stuff in 7th grade, you're supposed to get pretty good at this in 8th grade, even before you get to a geometry or algebra class. But I know that we're coming at it from different places. But what does it mean to solve this equation? Say again. Explain it.
You order of operations.
see what,
Ooh, hold on one second. Pause those ideas. Let's talk really quickly. Order of operations. I assume when you're talking about that, you're talking about the PEMDAS stuff? Yes? Please hear me very clearly on this. And this is why it's important to be careful about our language. The order of operations is to simplify an expression.
oh, this what they said? Oh my God.
Well, no. Hold on. And the order of operations that y'all know is to simplify an expression. Are these expressions?
They all look like expressions.
Why not?
I don't know. Right.
Say again. Oh, okay. You said something. I don't know what you said. Does anyone know what we call these?
Oh.
Say it louder. I heard someone say it.
Equations?
Equations, right? An expression is just a combination of numbers and letters through mathematical operations, okay? Those are expressions. What do you notice that they're missing?
When you have an equal sign, it's an equation.
The equal and the
Right? It does not have an equal sign. It does not have an inequality symbol. So those are expressions. The order of operations is to simplify expressions. We're talking about equations. We good with that?
Yeah.
I think so, maybe, hopefully. So we were asked to solve these equations. So what does that even mean? And that's, can't believe I caught that. And that's an important thing to recognize is we were asked to solve but we don't necessarily fully know what that is. I think I've told you this in the past, that mathematics, I've definitely told you this, mathematics is a language, right, to make sense out of the world around us. But that also means that there are terms in mathematics that we may not fully know what they mean. And if you don't fully know what they mean in a mathematical sense, it's hard to learn math. So we need to focus on our vocabulary a lot. All right? So, with that, we didn't do objectives yesterday, did we?
What did he?
These kind of things? No. Okay. Ireland, can you read our first objective for us today?
I can explain what the term solution means and apply that to the definition.
And apply that definition. So what is the first and most critical word that we have to learn? Solution. We got to know what it means to have a solution. Sorry. Okay, so we have to know what a solution is. Notice what were you asked to do with these equations? Solve them. Solve literally just means to find a solution. That means I heard you have plenty of time to do my homework tonight, right? What?
I gotta work.
Nah, you full of crap. Alright.
Working indoors.
Hey, listen. Okay? We have equations. Stop.
He failed.
Congratulations. But you throwing it around on the desk is just going to distract more people. Quit it. Dude, put it in your backpack.
Throw it away, cuz.
No. Because I don't want him to get up. I need everyone else to focus. So put it in your backpack so we can focus. Alright. So we were asked to solve these equations. That literally just means to find the solution. There's lots of ways to solve equations. But if I ask you to solve an equation, we're going to find the solution. So we got to know what a solution is, first and foremost. We all good with that idea? Okay? Bashar, can you read our second objective for us?
Create and explain an equation meant to represent a real world problem.
So you see this equation up here? If you have seen equations, you're probably just used to them like this, right? Where there's no context to them whatsoever. Yep. Okay, but the point of math is to make sense of the world around us. When we create an equation, it really should represent something. And so that's where we're actually going to start, is instead of just randomly working out problem after problem after problem, we're going to make equations that represent the world around us. And so here we go. Now, first off, let me go ahead and tell you this. You probably are not used to explaining what an equation means. That may mean that we have some difficulty here. What I ask is that even if you're struggling, there's only one of me, there's 7 groups, talk with those in your group and try to figure it out. Think about the norms that we set yesterday. We all said that we believe the hard work matters. We agreed that we need to stay on task the whole class period. Hold on to those things, okay? Let me go ahead and send this file to you. So you should get a file in just a second.
What's that?
Stay out last.
You sneeze on me the last time you sneeze.
Yo, Edie, do you ever stop?
What are you talking about?
You want to know the only student that I hear talk all class, every class?
So you just.
I get shut outside and blow my nose.
You just trying to sneeze on me.
Stop. He was playing. You be quick. Stop wasting time. Go blow your nose.
I get it, yeah.
Alright, man.
You should have all just gotten a file. Open it. Okay. Once you see page 1.1, go ahead and move on to page 1.2. 1.1 doesn't tell you much. By the way, you should also have a page on your desk that corresponds with the file I just sent you. Go ahead and grab it. If you got someone next to you like Kaylin or Mari who's already asleep, try to wake them up so they can learn. Do it nicely. Come on, Kaylin.
That was like,
I know. All right. Open the door. Why'd you close all the way? Also, why does it take you 30 seconds to blow your nose?
Cause I didn't want nobody to hear me. I was walking.
Nah, dude. You do that again, you won't be able to go outside to blow your nose. You'll just have to let everyone hear you. All right. So, here's the context, here's the story. A certain exhibit at a museum can only be viewed by small groups of people. In the morning, a group of 5 people visited the exhibit. In the afternoon, groups of 2 people visited the exhibit. If a total of 17 people viewed the exhibit that day, how many groups of 2 people visited in the afternoon? Now, does anyone have an idea what the answer to that question is before we get started with the rest of the task?
Can we get some?
Yeah, sure. But I mean, I'll go ahead and tell you, the answer to this question is not what's important right now. I was just seeing if anyone knew it off the top of their head. Bashar, you raised your hand. Do you have an idea? What do you think it is? Okay, so Bashar thinks 6 groups of people. Or 6 groups of 2, right? If you have 6 groups of 2, how many people is that?
12.
12 plus the 5 gives us a total of 17. 6 groups of 2 gives us 12 plus that 5 is 17. Please hear me very clearly. The point of this is not to solve for that 6. The point of this is to understand what a solution is and to understand what the equation means, okay? So yes, you already know the answer. Don't focus on that right now. I want to point this out. Before Bashar told us this, did you know that it was 6? Nope. Some of us may have figured it out. But my point is this. If that was unknown, what can you use in math to represent an unknown?
A variable.
A lot of people will say, I heard people say x, but what? A variable, right? And x is just one variable. There are lots of variables. What could we use, what variable would make sense to represent the idea of groups?
N or G or
N, or for a number of groups, or G for groups itself. It doesn't have to be an x. I want you to notice that the variable should make sense to the context. All that being said, here's what I need you to focus on. All right? If you go to page 1.2, it tells you the equation. What is the equation for this story?
2x plus 5
2x
equals
plus 5.
2x plus 5 is equal to 17. Okay? They've given you the equation. We already know what x is. What you need to focus on is, what does x represent? Why is x multiplied by 2 and not by the 5? Okay? That's what I want you to be talking about within your small groups. If you finish through number 2, continue on to numbers 3 and 4. But don't stress about solving the equation. Think about what this means. Answer that question within your groups. Pay attention to the story that was being told within your groups. All right, are there any questions?
No.
What? No. Let's get to work.